You currently hold several prestigious leadership roles. What lessons have you learned along the way with regards to leadership?
I have learned that a leader has to be able to model behaviors that other people actually can see. It's one thing to call you to show that you are a leader. So my motto is let people see in you what you believe you actually have achieved. And I believe that God has allowed me to move to a position of leadership in a lot of areas. And so I want people to see those skills and those qualities in the way I lead people.
Who do you admire and why?
I actually admire our President Barack Obama. I think he is a serious leader. I think that he has defied the odds. In your lifetime and mine, we've seen the first African American president, and that's phenomenal. So I admire the fact that he did not give up. I happen to have seen the movie South Side with You, that first date that he had with First Lady Michelle Obama. And I saw in the movie how he started as a young man actually empowering others and letting people know what they could achieve if they only believed in themselves. So I admire President Barack Obama.
Over the years, you have helped thousands of people. Which person had the most impact on your life and why?
Can you ask me that question again? I'm sorry I didn't hear you.
Over the years, you have helped thousands of people. Which person had the most impact on your life and why?
Oh, persons that I have helped?
Yes.
Probably a young lady who came to Still I Rise about 4 years ago. I started Still I Rise in 2006, and about 4 years ago, a young lady came in. She was a victim of domestic violence. At that time, it was a very, very abusive relationship. She had been married for 16 years and she had suffered abuse for about 10 of those years. But the abuser, her husband, held a very high position in a church and she didn't want to cause embarrassment to him, so she stayed in the marriage. But she came to Still I Rise on the recommendation of someone else, and she proceeded to turn her life around in, I'd say, a couple of years, because she left the house, she left the abuse, she moved into a shelter. She had a minor child at the time, but the child is now, I think, a teenager, and she has been able to defy the odds. She is now a program director at the Office of Personnel Management, and I think she holds like a GS 12 or 13 position. That means that she makes a good amount of money. So I think that she's done well for herself, and she credits Still I Rise for helping her understand who she is. She says that she was not created to be abused, and so she believes that we help instill in her the actual power to get out of that relationship. So I really admire her.
How does it feel knowing that your programs and words of inspiration help to motivate people?
That's a very good question. It's humbling because so many people come up to me so often to say thank you, Dr. Hodges, for this and thank you for that. And I think I'm just a person from Selma, North Carolina, who grew up in a house with 7 siblings, a mom who was a nurse, and a dad who was a minister. And I never really thought that I would be able to be in a position like this. I did enjoy education and always did very, very well in school. But it's just humbling. It just kind of makes me feel like I'm glad that I followed the path that God allowed me to follow. And I just really, I'm humbled. That's all I can say. And I just really praise God for what He's allowed me to accomplish.
What strategy did you use to stay focused in school?
Um, Probably the fear of my dad. My dad, as I said, was a very strict disciplinarian. I was a very precocious child. I finished high school at 15 and I finished college at 18. When I was 20, I had a master's. So I was pretty focused as a student, but I was also scared that my dad always told us that education was the one thing that people couldn't take from you. He said they may be able to take personal things, things that you own, but they wouldn't be able to take what was in your mind. So I just stayed focused on what was in my mind, and I could hear my dad saying always, and even now, Glenda, you can make it. And so that's what I did. I kept listening and I kept hearing, and that was probably the strategy, that just the understanding that whatever I believed I could achieve, I would.
If you had to select one word to describe your work ethic, what would it be and why?
My work ethic centers around the one word determination. Oftentimes people will tell you that you are or you are not. They tend to try to define you based on what they see in you, or based on where you come from, based on what you look like. But I think if you are determined that you can make it, you will make it. That defies what color you are. It defies what neighborhood you came from. It defies what your last name is. It absolutely says to you that if you desire it, if you believe you want to do it and you can achieve it, then you will do it. So determination would be my one word, and it is my one word because it's what has helped me make it to the point that I am today.
We are going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
This broadcast is being brought to you by Elliott High TV on Ustream.
And the District Knowledge Network.
I'm your host, Kelly.
I'm your host, Danae McCoy.
I'm your host, Dejanay Birks.
Our show topic today is taking care of our mind, body, and soul.
Joining us as a guest on the show is Dr. Hodges.
Our first segment was Understanding Dr. Glenda F. Hodges.
Our second segment is breaking the silence to domestic violence.
What are the behavioral indicators of an abuser?
Typically, an abuser seeks to control. So when you encounter a person who desires to control your thoughts, control your mind, control your words, you have probably looked at an abuser. Abusers don't always come in a particular profile, a particular manner. Sometimes people that are professional persons are abusers. Economics has nothing to do with it. Where you grow up has nothing to do with it. The research says that control of a person's thoughts, control of a person's behavior, control of a person's desires, wishes, those are typically the landmarks or the signs of an abuser.
Many people say if you are in an abusive relationship, why don't you leave? Isn't it easy to leave an abusive relationship?
Unfortunately, it isn't. And sometimes it's because of people like yourselves, because of the children. A number of women come to Still I Rise and tell us that they have endured abuse for more than a decade, more than 10 years, because of the children. They could live on the street or live outside of their relationship, but they don't think it's fair to put their children through that. So oftentimes women will stay with the abuser because of the children. Sometimes they stay because of the position that the abuser has. But I don't want you to think that abusers are always men. We have some victims of domestic violence and Still I Rise that come to Still I Rise who are men. The women are the abusers, believe it or not. The women can sometimes abuse the men. So leaving is not as easy as you would think it would be. Sometimes because of the children, and then sometimes because it is the way of life and the only way of life that the person knows. They don't know how to earn a living otherwise. They've always been supported and taken care of by the abuser, so they typically stay. They just can't walk out.
In your opinion, is it possible for abuser to change?
I think it is. I think it is. Oftentimes people seek to control others because they don't like themselves. Self-esteem is often an issue. You tend to defy and try to control things in others that you actually are lacking in yourself. So if you have some self-esteem issues, If there are things that you have never achieved that you've always wanted, sometimes it's jealousy. There are a number of relationships where one spouse is jealous of another, where one spouse earns more than another, where one spouse has more influence than the other. So if you come together and you talk it out and you decide, and the intervention of counseling, if you get the help that you need, sure, you can change, but you got to want to change.
Talk to us about why many people remain silent during an abusive relationship.
Embarrassment, a shame, just really uncomfortable letting people know. They believe they're going to be stereotyped. They believe that folk will say things that are not true about them. If you remain in an abusive relationship and you actually don't say anything, you typically can pretend that nothing is going wrong. So you end up wearing a mask. You end up being one way at home and then another way in public. So what you're doing is truly pretending that everything is all right when it really isn't. So being silent is kind of making it go away in your own head. You know that's not the truth, but in your own head it's making it go away. But when you return to the home environment, then it happens all over again.
Are men victims of domestic violence?
Are men what?
Victims of domestic
Oh,
violence.
absolutely. Victims. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the word. Absolutely. We have men that, as a matter of fact, there is a victim that comes to Still I Rise now who is probably maybe 5'2" or 5'3" in terms of his height. And the wife of the victim is not even 5 feet tall. She's a little lady. Because she's a batterer, and she actually has been court ordered to do an anger management class. So I was pretty surprised when I saw how small and petite she was, in as much as she's been really battering and beating up her husband for a long time. So yes, men are victims of domestic violence.
What advice would you give a child who is struggling in a particular subject due to teen dating violence?
That's kind of difficult because you have to get outside of yourself and not pay attention to what people think or what people say. It's very hard for you to admit if you're trying to be popular or if you want to impress others that there's something wrong in a relationship where you're teen dating. If the person that you're dating is abusive and you know that he is abusive and you want to let others know that you have somebody in your life. Some people are not comfortable or not happy without a relationship or being involved in a relationship, so they will tolerate things that they shouldn't. But I would say a good rule of thumb is to ask yourself, would I want somebody to treat me like this? Is this really what I deserve? If you don't want to be treated that way, then why treat others that way? Because I truly believe what goes around comes around. And I think you reap what you sow. So I think a lot of times teen dating violence continues because of popularity or the desire to be popular.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
This broadcast has been brought to you by Elliot High TV on Ustream.
And the District Knowledge Network.
I'm your host, Kelly.
I'm your host, Danae McCoy.
Our show topic today is taking care of our mind, body, and soul.
Our first segment is understanding Dr.
Hodges.
Glenda F. Hodges.
Joining us as a guest on the show is Dr. Hodges.
Do you have any final thoughts for our students at Elliott High?
I think I would probably say to you that where you are at this point in your life is probably the most important place you could be. You are in school and you're getting an education. Don't take this for granted. Take the time to learn all that you can As I said before, education is the one thing that others can't take from you. The world belongs to you at this point. You can be whatever you choose to be, but you have to decide that it's what you choose to be. Don't listen to others. Don't listen and accept others' perception of you. Believe in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. Always remember that with God, anything is possible. So stay in school and do the best that you can. And like my company is called, Still I Rise, Still You Will Rise. So say with me, Still I Rise. Let's all say it on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Still I rise.
Yay! Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day.
Thank you, my little sister.
Thank you.